Hey, welcome. Good to see you. I want to talk today on the live stream about what is replacing keyword volume. And I'm putting it in quotation marks just to give myself a little bit of room to talk about what that word replace means and whether that's what I really mean or whether I'm also trying to say something else. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Justin Dunham. I'm going to put my little banner on the screen here. And I help run Ércule. Ércule works on content systems for B2B companies. And check out some of my other live streams and our blog to understand more about what content systems are. But the general idea is we want to help you and all of our clients and everybody else build high performance, high velocity systems that combine different workflows and technology and process and all that stuff to get to the outcomes that we want from a brand perspective, a demand gen perspective, and all that stuff using content. So we do SEO, AEO, of course, is an outcome of a successful content system, technical writing, product marketing, all the things that you would need to be successful in that way. So that's a quick introduction to me and us. But let's get back to talking about keyword volumes. So there has always been a lot of discussion about what keyword volume actually is. And just to ground the conversation really quickly, keyword volume is an estimate of how many people are searching for a particular topic or query every month. So if I open the Ércule app, for example, and I take a look at, let's do present here, and I'll share screen. And I look through Ércule's library, and I try to figure out like, okay, what's out there on content strategy that we might want to rank for. You can see we've got this volume thing here. And this volume data is from SEMrush, but you get volume data from all sorts of other places. And you see the volume data here. You see, oh, 10,000 searches a month for content strategy, 1,000 for what is content strategy. All that stuff is in there. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about keyword volume. It's this theoretical measure, sort of grounded estimate, let's put it that way, of how often people are searching for things. And really what it's a proxy for is, do people care about a certain topic? The thing is that volume has always been directional. I mean, even if you look at this list, you're going to see that everything's rounded off to the nearest 100 or sometimes to the nearest 1,000. A lot of times, search tools will not get specific queries, won't get data using the clickstream methods and other methods they have. So you'll see 0 or 10 or 20. And that's really, it's very directional. It's an estimate. We've always said to our clients, think about it as orders of magnitude rather than specific numbers. The other thing is that all the time we see that clients get more clicks than they should be able to, or more impressions than they should be able to, based on the specific volume, or vice versa. And so one of the things the Ércule app does is it automatically adjusts its estimates for what we're actually seeing in Search Console. But the point is that these are very much not exact measurements. And then the last thing that people say a lot, and I'll share this post from Steve Toth, a lot of things that people say are, oh, hey, Steve's saying, don't trust search volume metrics when doing keyword research. This page earned almost 9,000 clicks in 2 months, exclusively with 0 search volume keywords. That it's possible, like it happens. It's not to say that search volume is not useful, but it has always been directional. It's gotten harder to get good estimates over the years. And so that's something to be aware of in terms of thinking about what's replacing keyword volume. So what we have been doing with clients, with everybody we talk to, is we've been saying, look at keyword volume as one data point and maybe it's a big data point. Maybe it's a really big data point. Maybe it's 80% of your data. But what we want to create is content that is useful to our actual customers and also not too competitive for the client or for us, something we can actually break through the noise on. And then something that there's evidence that people care about and are searching for. The most valuable time for having this conversation is when somebody comes to us and says, we want to rank for X. And we can say, hey, we don't see any evidence that anybody cares about X. If you want to rank for X, that's great, but just so you know, we don't think it's going to get you anywhere. That's a really helpful use case. But other than that, it's a way of grounding our information and making sure that we are writing about things that people care about. So I have my little banner here as what's replacing it. And I'm going to add another banner, maybe just edit this one. And I'm going to say keyword volume is one way, perhaps a really important, maybe even the most important, to ground our content strategy. Let's put that up on the board. Accept that. Okay, it's only going to show up for like 10 seconds. Keyword volume is one way, perhaps a really important way to ground our keyword strategy. So what I'm saying is that keyword volume is still big, but I just showed you some examples where it doesn't work, where we may want to think bigger. And so what it really is a way to take the things that we think we want to write about and ground them in evidence that people actually care about this stuff and that our customers actually care about this stuff. Okay. So let's talk about what else is replacing keyword volume. There are a bunch of these things, and these have always been augments that people can use. So the one thing that I like to think about is real questions, as opposed to thinking about very short phrases and topics and keywords. We're really thinking about real questions, and this is really important in AI search because that's what people are typing into Claude and ChatGPT, all these other GPTs. They're typing in longer questions. If you look at your Google Search Console, you filter for what longer queries, which you can do. You can filter for queries that have 4 or 5 or 6 words. You'll notice a lot more of those. And so real questions, the existence of real questions are replacing keyword volume. And so let me show you another example of this too. You might see stuff in Google Search Console. You might also see stuff. Here's just like a random thing I brought up on Reddit. Is anyone actually measuring demand gen well right now? This is an example post on Reddit. That's a real question. There are lots of these real questions. They're all over LinkedIn. They're in your sales data. They're in all these other places. And so real questions can replace, or maybe augment is a better word, your keyword volume in terms of understanding things that people actually care about. And the main message here is that what we're really trying to get to is just grounding our content ideas in real data, and keyword volume can be augmented or replaced a little bit by some of these other things. Another thing you might want to look at is you can take what you're seeing in Claude, what people might be searching for in Claude or prompting Claude with, or AI mode or any of these other things. And when they search the web, they are synthesizing queries. So that can be a really important source too of understanding what people are really searching for, or what an AI might search on a user's behalf for. If you haven't heard of query fan out, the basic idea here is, here I am just Googling it, looking at it in AI mode. The basic idea here is that it's a way that AI search gathers more information. You take the fundamental query here, like query fan out that I put in as the query, and then an LLM is going to try to pick some other queries that are related to this and also search for those and put that all together. So that's synthetic queries or query fan out. And there's lots and lots of articles out there on this, but that's another area that you might want to look at is your synthetic queries. How do you get to synthetic queries? They're very complicated methods involving just looking at the actual network traffic to ChatGPTs, which we do sometimes. There are tools that will make suggestions based on what it sees. But this is another thing to think about. And a good way to think about synthetic queries is just what are the follow-on queries, or what are the related queries that somebody's going to care about for some of these long tail things. So there's kind of real questions, there's synthetic queries. Google Trends, again, I'm not saying it should be your #1 source, but it's gotten a lot more useful. So here is marketing measurement as a search term. And here you can see top queries there, which you would see anyway, when you use a keyword tool. And then you can also see rising queries over here. So if I cared about marketing measurement, I might say, oh, influencer marketing measurement. Okay, there's some other stuff here that's interesting. So that could be another place, presence in Google Trends as a way of saying, how do we ground our ideas in things that people are actually talking about? Another thing that you shouldn't sleep on is sales calls and transcripts from sales calls. And I can probably show you, I don't know if I have an example I can show you on this live stream, but the idea of sales calls is, what are the real questions that people ask when they're talking to your sales team? And then maybe you want to answer those on the site. And those could be ways of attracting people through AI search and SEO, because they could have very specific concerns. But it can also be an FAQ that you can put on your page to manage how you show up in LLMs and make sure that you answer questions directly, so that when an LLM gets asked the question, they surface the right data for the person who's searching. So what we talked about so far is volume has always been directional. It's still very important. It's one way, perhaps a really important way, perhaps the most important way to ground our content strategy. And now we've got these additional places that we can look, especially with the emergence of AI, to also try to find other sources of keywords of things that people care about. And so we talked about, just now we talked about sales calls, we talked about synthetic queries, a little banner there. We talked about looking on Reddit. Reddit's a way of just finding FAQs, but you can look at all sorts of other places for questions. Good old SEO is still important. Good old keyword research in Google Search Console. All of these are important. But when I tell you that I want to talk about what's replacing keyword volume, the main message I'm trying to get across is that you now need to and can look at additional sources to understand how to ground your content ideas and publish stuff that's responsive to things that people are actually talking about and actually care about. And where keyword volume has always historically, at least for us, been the biggest source of that and may continue to be for quite a while, keep in mind that it's directional and look to these other sources as well, especially as we can produce more content given all the LLM technology and other stuff that's in front of us today. So that's the live stream for today. It's just like, what's replacing keyword volume? Well, nothing's replacing it today, but here are other sources that you can use to augment your understanding of what people are really caring about. Always think about your strategy in terms of those three things. What's relevant to our customers? Where can we actually break through because it's specific enough? And where do we have evidence that people actually care about the thing? And that can be really helpful in terms of defending what you're producing and getting the results you want from your content system. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know if any questions. Justin at ércule.com, which I had a banner for here a second ago. There we go. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.